Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Bob Burg. He is the author of several books. The book we're going to be talking about today is The Go Giver. Bob, how you doing today?
Great, James. How about you?
I am fantastic. So Bob, I mentioned before that you've written, a number of books on sales, marketing, influence, with total book sales of well over 1 million copies. You co-authored The Go Giver with John David Mann. That book has sold over 500,000 copies. It's been translated into 21 languages. It's been reissued in an expanded edition with a forward by the Huffington Post founder, Arianna Huffington. So I read this book a few months ago, and it just had a profound impact on my life. And so I am super honored to have you on the show. Can you give our listeners and folks that aren't familiar with the book, just a background on, what made you want to put that out into the world?
Sure, and thank you for your kind words. I'm honored to know you feel that way. Basically, I've authored a number of books in the past, but they were all how-to books. I'm really a how-to author. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yep.
And my biggest one was probably my first one, which was Endless Referrals, Network Your Everyday Contacts into Sales. And the premise of that book was that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. Throughout the years, though, I'd always read business parables and always enjoyed them very much, starting with Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World, Klassen's Richest Man in Babylon, Chilson's the Wealthy Barber, and then you had the 1 Minute series by doctors Blanchard and Johnson in the early 80s. And there are tons of great parables out there. Always enjoyed them, loved the connection with a brief, short story, and thought, wouldn't it be great if we could take the basic premise of endless referrals, that know, like, and trust, and turn that into a parable. So the first thing I said is, well, so what's the essence of building that know, like, and trust relationship? Because that needed to be the title of the book. And what it comes down to is that people who build great business relationships, and I don't care if it's B2C or B2B, it's always people that you're dealing with eventually. Mm-hmm. And that the way you do it is you're always giving value to everyone. Your focus is on bringing value or giving value to others. So kind of came up with the name The Go Giver and a very sketchy idea of but it wasn't until I asked John David Mann, who was the editor-in-chief of a magazine I used to write for, and at that time, not many people outside a specific industry knew John. I did. I knew of him, and I knew how brilliant he was and is. And so I asked John if he would be the lead writer and storyteller, because he's the storyteller.
Yeah.
He's the guy who really made this sing. And fortunately for me, he said yes. And so we collaborated on this and put the story together with the laws and so forth. And it's been a good ride.
That's incredible. So you just alluded to it just there. You said, as a part of this parable, this story, there are 5 laws. Mm-hmm. Can you walk us through what is at a high level, what is the story that you guys told?
Sure.
And then talk about those 5 laws that you cover in it.
Yeah, happy to. I mean, the basic premise is simply that shifting your focus, and this is the key, shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing value to others. And that doing so is not only a pleasant way to conduct business, it's actually a very financially profitable way as well.
Yep.
And from that are 5 laws, the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. The first one is the law of value, which is it's the foundational principle. And it simply says that your true worth in the business sense, your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, this, it sounds when you first hear that, it's rather counterintuitive, right? I mean, give more in value than I take in payment? How am I supposed to survive in my business, never mind thrive, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like a recipe for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
So we simply need to understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It simply is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings with it so much worth or value to someone that someone will willingly exchange their money for it and be ecstatic that they did while you make a very healthy profit.
Okay. Got it. So that's the law of value. Yeah. So this next one you said is compensation?
Compensation. And that says that your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So where law number 1 says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number 2 tells us that the more people or companies whose lives you touch with the exceptional value you provide, the more money with which you'll be rewarded. So law number 1, that talks about your potential income, but it's not enough to serve just one person or one company. Law number 2 is all about how many lives you impact with that value.
Okay. And then talk to us a bit about the third law.
Yeah, this is the law of influence. And this one says that your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now, again, counterintuitive, counterproductive sounding at best, and maybe even Pollyanna-ish at worst, right? And yet you think about it, James, the greatest leaders, the top influencers, the most successful and profitable salespeople, this is simply how they run their lives and conduct their businesses. Yeah. They're always looking for ways to bring value to others to make their lives better. Now, let me qualify this if I may, because this can easily be misunderstood, and it's very important. When we say place the other person's interests first, we certainly don't mean you should be a doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not at all. It's just as Joe, the protege in the story, learned from several of the mentors, and as you and I discussed at the beginning, the golden rule of business says that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. Well, there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you in others than by genuinely and authentically moving from what we call an I focus or me focus to an other focus, looking for ways. Yeah, as Sam, one of the mentors, advised Joe, to make your win all about the other person's win.
I love it. So we've got value, we've got compensation, we've got influence. What's this fourth law?
That's the law of authenticity. And this says that the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. In the story, Deborah Davenport, one of the mentors, shared a lesson she learned that all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and indeed they are all very, very important and not to be at all diminished, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true authentic core. Now, when you do, right, when you show up as yourself day after day, week after week, month after month, people feel good about you.
Yeah.
They feel comfortable with you. They obviously know, like, and trust you. They feel safe with you. And they are much more likely to want to be in a relationship with you, do business with you.
It makes sense. And it's so easy to get caught up in the trap of trying to project an image of someone that you're not, a more successful version of yourself, someone who has accomplished more. But the reality is, whenever you embrace exactly who you are in the season of life that you're in, that then enables you actually to add that much more value to back to that first law, because people resonate with you on such a rich level. That word has been kind of pounding in my head the last several weeks. Is a lot of close friends of mine are really starting to embrace this idea in their own businesses and their own kind of endeavors, and they're seeing enormous results because they are being almost to the point of saying dangerously authentic to themselves, and being just incredibly vulnerable with their audience in being so authentic that and the response they're getting from the markets that they're serving are phenomenal. So we've got value, compensation, influence, authenticity. Talk to us about this fifth law.
Yeah, well, that's the law of receptivity, and this sort of brings it all home. The law of receptivity says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. And what this really means is that we both breathe out and breathe in. It's not one or the other. We breathe out carbon dioxide. We breathe in oxygen. We breathe out, which is giving. We breathe in, which is receiving. Despite the many messages of lack that we get from the world around us, the fact is giving and receiving are not opposite concepts. They're simply two sides of the very same coin, and they work best in tandem. The key is not the key is keeping away from that, what we call the treacherous dichotomy or the false dilemma, the unnecessary use of the word or. Are you a giver or a receiver? No, you're both. You're a giver and a receiver. But you understand that the focus needs to be on the giving. You focus on the giving of value to everyone, and then you allow yourself to receive. This is why we say, John David Mann and I say, that money is simply an echo of value. It's the thunder, if you will, to value's lightning, which means nothing more than that the focus must be on bringing value to others. In this case, your customer, the client company. And whether you're doing that through the insight that they may not have known for themselves because you've just made such a study of their business and their needs, their wants, their desires. So you know it even better than they do when it comes to your, matching the benefits of your product or service, whether it's understanding the political process within that company or whatever you need to do. But you've got to focus on them. And when you do, and you have done this, and then here's where receptivity comes in. You allow yourself to receive. You don't stand in your own way. That's when great things happen.
I love it. Bob, so in going back to the first law, talking about value, this has been something that I've been thinking about a lot lately as my own, I think I've been becoming more aware of it as my own influence has grown because of this podcast, like the different things that are like the success of our business. There have been I've been inundated with emails of folks that want me to, write an article about their thing or have them as a guest on the show. And it's just made me hyper aware of this idea of someone trying to extract value from you before they offer value themselves. And I think it's just obviously we're selfish. We want what it is that's going to help us get to the next level, or get that promotion, or get our article featured in Huffington Post, or whatever the case may be. How can folks add value in a genuine way up front as opposed to kind of the standard? I mean, I see very few people that are actually adding tangible value. They may think that their product or their service or the message that they have to share is the value, and it might be valuable, but to the person on the receiving end of that, it doesn't, it's not perceived as value. It's perceived as you're trying to get me to, to have you on our show so you can reach our large audience. Right.
Value is always in the eyes of the beholder.
Yes.
So it's not what we think is of value or what someone should think is of value. And that's why we have to approach it the way as you're discussing. You have to approach it in a way that this other person perceives it
as value.
As being
and
value.
So how does someone do that? Do you have any examples, or stories where people can legitimately add value up front to maybe someone they don't know very well, if at all?
Well, on social media, we're able to do that when we connect with someone there and we retweet something they do, or we comment on a post that they've written.
Yep.
Or we've shared it in some way and let other people know about that, or even write a nice note letting them know that we enjoy their work. So, there's ways we're able to do that. And, if someone is, for example, asking to be in your podcast, what they've got to do, that they can't ask in such a way that you obviously see that they just want to promote their stuff, because your listeners don't want that. And your job, your fiduciary, is to your listeners.
Yeah.
And so they've got to be able to communicate it in such a way. So it might be that they have, learned your demographic and what message they could bring that would please them, that would add value to them, and they can communicate that to you. But the biggest thing is, looking for ways. And I think if you ask yourself, if someone, not you, but if one asks themselves the question, how do I add value to this person I want to connect with? I think there's all sorts of ways that we can come up with.
Yeah.
So
particularly with what you just mentioned, Bob, about the social media has opened up.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just so crazy. You can go to someone's Facebook profile, and because most people don't keep those private, you don't even have to be friends with them, and you can see, oh man, this is a busy mom of four, and start looking at different elements of their life where you can legitimately add value to them. I was just interviewing Gary Vaynerchuk a few weeks ago for this summit that we're putting together, and he said one practical idea he had. He was like, imagine if your Salesforce, your B2B, your competitor's Oracle. Imagine if the sales reps for Salesforce were so educated in Oracle's product that they were able to go and troubleshoot Oracle problems whenever Oracle customers, mentioned, hey, I'm having this issue with, XYZ widget not working or whatever. If a Salesforce rep was so knowledgeable about their competitor's product that they were able to jump on LinkedIn or that tweet and reply with a solution to that problem, he said that here's the trick, though. Don't say anything about like, oh, well, if you were a Salesforce customer, you wouldn't be having that issue.
Right, exactly.
It solved the problem, and then almost like drop the mic and go. Let your profile do the talking. He said, because imagine, what is that Oracle customer going to do when they see that the Salesforce guy just solved their Oracle problem? And I thought, oh my gosh, like what a practical example of this idea of adding value up front. And then letting the value speak for itself instead of they're always kind of waiting for the, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're okay. Well, now you got to come sign up for Salesforce or whatever. I mean, it's just, it makes so much sense, but I think to me, it seems like people just aren't patient enough, and that lack of patience forces people to get to the ask way quicker than they had they just waited a bit or added a bit more value. They actually probably would have gotten what they set out to get. Do you see, like, from your perspective, Bob, why do you think that people struggle with this idea so much?
Well, it's human nature. And human nature is one of self-interest.
Yep.
And that self-interest dates back to the very beginning, and it's what has allowed us to survive and duplicate ourselves as human beings and make other human beings and all these things. And it's become part of our DNA. And that, so we are, as human beings, we are self-interested creatures. That's not the problem. The problem is that when we allow that self-interest to control us and control our actions. And that's why what we say is, don't try to fight the fact that you're self-interested. Don't deny it, because it's fruitless to deny that we're self-interested creatures. What you do is you suspend your self-interest. It's sort of like going into a movie, right? You've heard the term, the willing suspension of disbelief.
Okay.
So in other words, you go into a movie, a James Bond movie, James Bond isn't cracking a joke when some terrorist holds a gun to his head. Yeah, that's crazy. But in order to enjoy the show and the movie and the pathos and have the good feelings, we just make believe what's up there is really happening. We willingly suspend our disbelief. Well, willingly suspend your self-interest. As you begin to get that self-interested feeling and want to make that ask before you know it's appropriate to make that ask, before the know, like, and trust has begun to be developed, make sure you suspend that self-interest.
I love it. All right, Bob, I want to talk a bit about mentorship. This had, this played a role in a big way in the story that you guys told in The Go-Giver. When there's someone who is they're looking for a mentor, what are some of the things that they should be doing or not doing? As we're talking about this idea of adding value first, I think the same concept applies here, but talk to us about your thoughts on mentorship, and maybe even if we backed up a little bit and talked about kind of the mentorship role from the book, so people have some context for why I asked that, and then talk to us about what people should be doing or not doing as they go about trying to find a mentor.
Well, in the story, Joe, who was an up-and-coming, young, ambitious, aggressive, but very frustrated young salesperson, he was introduced to this mentor by the name of Pindar, and through their relationship, which in the course of the story was just a week, Pindar and some other friends of his were able to kind of turn Joe's focus around to, as we talked about earlier, to take it off of himself and place it on bringing value to others. A mentor is very important because a mentor can cut our learning curve time. They can provide us with advice and encouragement and so forth. So having a mentor is a great thing. I think in choosing a mentor, it can be someone who has been successful in the business you're in. That's certainly ideal. But it can also just be someone who's been very successful in business, successful in life, successful in general, and has wisdom to be able to pass along. It really depends what you're looking to accomplish. That has a lot to do with what kind of mentor you're going to choose. It should be, of course, someone whose values are congruent with yours.
Got it.
Because otherwise they can give you advice that would work for them and others with those similar values, but it's something you'll resist. So, but assuming you have someone kind of picked out that you'd like to do that with, I'll suggest that one of the worst things someone can do when trying to have a mentor is to just simply ask that person, hey, will you mentor me, or will you be my mentor? Okay. When you don't have a relationship set up or a relationship established first, because a mentor-protege relationship is just that. It is a relationship. And just as, certainly we've heard this analogy before, it's nothing new, but it's like asking someone to marry you before asking them out for a first date.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, but what I would do is, let's say there is someone who you admire and you've researched this person. And because remember, you don't want to ask anything that you could have easily discovered through researching them. And these days, there's no excuse, as you were talking about earlier, to find out about someone. But there's nothing wrong with letting this person know, whether it's by phone or in person or email or what have you. There's nothing wrong with letting this person know that you're looking to, improve yourself in certain areas of business, or you're looking to take that next step toward your success. I admire your work. I realize you're very, very busy. If it would not be too presumptuous of me to ask, may I ask you one or two very specific questions? Because then what you're doing is you're honoring the process. You're honoring, you're respecting them. You're not coming across as entitled, but rather as someone who understands, this is a big ask. And obviously it's not something where you can really add value first necessarily to this person, not in a substantial way.
Yeah.
But most times, most people, and again, not everyone, but it doesn't have to be everyone, but most people who are successful people will generally are happy to answer one or two questions. So when they do, make sure you thank them profusely and you let them know how valuable that is. You look forward to applying their information right away, and that you'll keep in touch. That day I would write, not email or text. I would write a personalized handwritten note, just a short one, thanking them for their time and valuable insights. And you look forward to applying their information. You'll keep in touch. Again, I can't thank you enough, blah, 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 blah. hand address it, hand stamp it. What I would also do is find out their favorite charity, which again, you can easily see online.
Yep.
And make a small, doesn't have to be big, but a small donation to their favorite charity in their name. That will get back to them. You're not doing it to kiss up. You're doing it just, again, to communicate that your desire is to find ways to add value to them, that this is not just a one-way type of relationship.
I love it.
And then again, maybe a month later, a couple weeks later, you go back, you ask another question, or you let them know and eventually, if it's supposed to happen, a mentor-protege relationship develops.
I love it. I love it. Bob, this book has obviously been, wildly successful.
Thank you.
What tends to be the most pressing question that people have after listening to it or reading it? Is there a common question that you get that you find yourself answering over and over? I want to make sure that that I'm not missing out on it.
No, there's not so much a common question as much as a comment that Law 5, the law of receptivity, is the most difficult law for practically everyone. Okay. And that we've had people say that reading that chapter finally gave them permission to see that it is good to receive, and that earning a lot of money when you've provided value is a great thing, where they may have had mental blocks about it. Because remember, we do get a lot of, not mixed, but negative messages about money from society. Okay. And John and I, especially, with so it's the title, The Go-Giver, right? They don't think that it's also going to be about receiving. But remember, receiving is the natural effect of giving. And again, money is the echo of value. So that surprises people, but it shows them that it's not a matter of, again, giving or receiving. It's both. But we need to remember that we start and we come from a focus of giving value.
I love it. Bob, this has been fantastic. If there's somebody listening to this, obviously, they can go check out the book. Something I want to do. I've never done this before, but in the spirit of the conversation, if you want to read The Go-Giver, shoot me an email, james@sweetfishmedia.com, and I'll buy 5 copies of the book for the first 5 people that shoot me an email, because this book, I remember exactly where I was. I was on a flight to San Diego, finished it up as I landed on the plane. This book fundamentally changed a lot of how I think about things. A lot of the things I was already aligned on, but just the way you guys told the story, it moved me in a very real way. So shoot me an email, james@sweetfishmedia.com. Just put Go-Giver in the subject. Just say, hey, James, would love to get a copy. I'll get your address and send you the book from Amazon or whatever. But Bob, so people can find the book on, if they're not one of those 5, they can find the book on Amazon. How else can they stay connected with you and continue to stay up to date with everything that you've got going on?
Sure. They can visit thegogiver.com without the hyphen, thegogiver.com. And as they scroll down, and they can connect on the podcast if they'd like. They can join the Go-Giver movement. But they can also get Chapter 1 and an excerpt, if they'd like, from the Go-Giver on that page. So just thegogiver.com. And James, I appreciate your kind comment and compliment about the book. It means a lot to me to know that you found it to be of value.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Bob. You and your co-author John. And so, again, this has been fantastic. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you'd like to connect with B2B executives from all over the world, make sure to join our private Facebook community. There are some incredible conversations happening inside this group. To join, visit b2bgrowthshow.com/FB.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.